Welcome, everyone, to the next episode of the Search Off the Record podcast. Our plan is to talk a bit about what's happening at Google Search, how things work behind the scenes, and who knows, maybe have some fun along the way. My name is John Mueller. I'm a search advocate on the search relations team here at Google in Switzerland. I'm joined today by Martin.
Moin.
And Gary, of course.
Good day.
Both are also on the search relations team and happy to be here, if you can't tell. Today, we'll be looking back a bit at last year to kind of reflect on what went well, what didn't go so well, and kind of like, in general, just how things were. So it's been quite an interesting year, right, guys?
Yeah. Different than expected, probably, but an interesting year, I would say.
Okay. What did you expect?
I don't know. For some reason, I had a feeling that 2021 will be different, as in like more normal, more the old normal, but it did not happen. And to be honest, that threw me off at the beginning of the year. But then I figured we have to roll with the punches, and we still pulled off a bunch of cool stuff, and we had lots of community interactions. Search launched a bunch of things, as far as I remember. Maybe I'm misremembering things. It all feels like 2019 just drags on forever. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Yeah. How do you feel about the year, Gary?
I mean, kind of like you. I was hoping that we go back to travel and stuff, but obviously that didn't happen. And that was a bummer because all my life I was traveling like crazy. And I do miss it, but it's not like I can do anything about it. So I'm just sitting here and eating popcorn, waiting for things to settle down.
So, enough about Corona. What about JavaScript? What do you think, Martin? Is JavaScript and SEO complete now? Or it's like, is there anything left to do? It feels like SEOs have figured it all out.
Oh, that's a tricky one, John. That's a good question as well. So on one hand, I think a lot of things that have been historically attributed to JavaScript from SEOs has been resolved as actually not a JavaScript problem. But I don't think it's a solved problem. I don't know if you remember last year's I/O website that infamously was a single page application, if I remember correctly, and it was not really showing up in search, which means there's still ways things can go wrong. And I think JavaScript is such an evolving, fast-paced, and difficult technology to make sure that it's... I don't think we can prevent people from shooting themselves in the foot with it, but we can make it harder for them. On the other hand, I am really excited and happy to see that SEOs are catching up with JavaScript and are familiarizing themselves with it. But I often have conversations with people like, I can't pronounce his last name properly, but Giacomo Cecchini. I'm never sure how to pronounce his last name properly, so he'll probably listen to this episode and be like, oh, this is wrong. So Giacomo points out like bits and pieces that he's not sure about on experiments with the platform. Dave Smart experiments with this. Jamie Indigo comes with a lot of questions as well. Bartosz Goralewicz and Tomek Rudzki, I think, from Onely have lots of questions regarding JavaScript, and they are really like trailblazers in this field. Not all of the things that are attributed to JavaScript are JavaScript-related issues, but there are still definitely areas where we can and have to improve. But generally, JavaScript content has a fair chance to be indexed these days. So it's not a solved problem, but it's one that has seen huge strides, huge improvements, and I'm really excited to see the community picking up on it and improving their knowledge and their guidance for others to work with JavaScript and search.
So do you think like Google's part of the problem is solved and it's now up to the websites to actually get things right? Or is it still that like, well, Google search doesn't have it all figured out yet?
We haven't it all figured out yet. There's still areas that we would need to work on. For instance, the guidance to shift work off the main thread that is also like popularized with the new Core Web Vitals. That's something that we in rendering need to be aware of and work on. It hasn't been very popular as a technique in the past, but it will probably become more popular in the near future. So we need to deal with that appropriately.
Wait.
Oh,
Can you explain that? Like, to someone who hates Java? I mean, doesn't know much JavaScript.
Okay, I'll explain it for a hypothetical friend of yours, Gary. So JavaScript, by definition, has been running in the same line of execution, if you want to. Like, imagine every browser tab as a person who takes instructions and then constructs the website that you see. And this person also gets instructions from you whenever you move your mouse, whenever you click on a button, whenever you scroll. These instructions go to the same person, and then they assemble or reassemble the website in front of your eyes accordingly. JavaScript is one of the things that happens to this one person. It's called the main thread, this one person. And whenever JavaScript does a lot of work, then this person is kept busy by JavaScript, and then whatever other inputs are coming in, like clicking a button, scrolling the page, need to wait for the JavaScript to finish. So that's something that is becoming more and more challenging as more and more work is shifted to JavaScript. So one way to avoid that issue of the website not responding to your inputs anymore is to move some of the JavaScript work to, let's call it a second person, and we call them a web worker. And they are basically doing things in parallel to the other person. So the main person, the main thread, still responds to clicks and scrolls, but in the background, another person does all the JavaScript work, and then basically they can exchange messages so that there's less interruption for the main thread person. Historically, that technique hasn't been utilized much. So our rendering service, our web rendering service, is not really good at dealing with that kind of work separation. It does work, it just doesn't work great. So that's something that we definitely want to get better at, as that is probably becoming more and more popular. Then there's like a few bits and pieces, and there's the continuous work to upgrade the web rendering service to keep up with Chrome updates. New technologies being introduced. So that's definitely work on our side. Also troubleshooting interesting edge cases and things that no one expected would happen is something that happens sporadically, but it does happen on our side. The other side is education, because SEOs are catching up to this fact. But there's still a lot of developers who are now more required to think of SEO and to think of search as one of the users of their website, so to speak, or consumers of their web content. And they don't necessarily know about that, or they don't understand the trade-offs and the decisions that they need to make. So it's our job, I feel it's my job, kind of, to tell them, to talk to them and hear what they are struggling with, what they need, and then bridge this gap between SEOs and developers.
Bridge the gap. Oh, wow. Martin, you're turning into a manager.
Oh, God,
what is
no.
happening? So cool. So anyway, with regards to the developer side there, from your point of view, do you think more developers are thinking about search and trying to get it right? Or is there still that mindset that, like, well, Google will figure everything out?
I'm seeing more and more developers thinking about it. And I think that started when we were going into developer-focused events like certain community events, Google I/O, Google Chrome Dev Summit. And we talked in front of developers about search being a thing. And like more and more people come to me and ask me questions about what they need to make sure to, what they need to consider when building websites so that they make sure that it doesn't break search. But I think more or less most of the people don't really think about it that much. And I'm not too unhappy about it, because theoretically it's our job to make it just work. But obviously developers can be very, very creative when it comes to building things, and some creativity might run into problems.
Okay. So there's also this, I guess you'd say, meme around the SEO community where they're like, oh, the developer did SEO, therefore we have to be extra careful. Do you think like a little knowledge of SEO, is that a good thing or a bad thing overall for developers?
I think that's a good thing, but it's also very important to know your limits. And I think that actually goes both ways. I find it very, very problematic when SEOs come with what they think are turnkey solutions to all the problems that the code might have without even understanding what code there is. Like there's a certain environment, there might be a certain framework involved, there might be certain architectural decisions that have been made that are very, very hard to change. And now they come with what they think is a one-size-fits-all solution. And they are very excited about their solution. And then the developers are like, yeah, but that doesn't work and doesn't apply for what we are working with. And then there is some pushback. It was like, well, I thought about this really long and hard. It's like, yeah, but you could have avoided wasting that time, by just talking to us. And I think the dialogue needs to happen. And that's, yeah.
Yeah. So more dialogue between SEOs and developers. That sounds reasonable. It's like understanding both sides and being able to kind of speak the same language. I think that makes a big difference. Yeah. Cool. Do you see any big updates happening with regards to JavaScript? It's like you mentioned the Chrome versions. Does that actually happen?
That does happen whenever there's a new stable release on Chrome. A few weeks later, we are usually updating. It might take a little longer than a few weeks, but basically we are even with the Chrome version that is out there in web rendering service. But there's no huge updates from our side. I know there has been a bunch of core updates this year, but I don't think anything that specifically addressed JavaScript, unless I'm mistaken.
Core updates. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe we should announce JavaScript updates more than core updates.
Are we even announcing core updates these days? I think we do, right?
Why are we talking about core updates?
Well, I don't know. Gary, do you want to talk about core updates? You want to talk about core updates. So, Gary, are we announcing core updates?
We seem to announce core updates, yes.
How long in advance? And are you happy with the way that we're doing it? Oh.
I don't know how to give an answer to that without getting fired.
Right. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't have asked it that way.
So I have very strong feelings about core updates in general. Our team generally knows what we are doing when we are doing core updates, or what the things in the core updates do, more specifically. And in the vast majority of the cases, the things are just focusing on the guidelines that we've been publishing for the past 20 years. So basically, write good content, don't buy links, whatever. I don't know. So every single time we do one of these core updates, we are basically saying that follow our guidelines. And that's also our advice. Like, if you are affected by this update, or if you want to learn more about it, then here's the Webmaster Guidelines that you can check out, or this post that is based on the Webmaster Guidelines that you can check out. So then why are we publicizing the core updates? Because it's obvious that there was an update. So I don't know what's the benefit of having communication about the core updates when we can't say more about them.
People really want us to announce core updates, and I think the outcome of a core update is often quite visible, right?
Sure, but it's also obvious.
I think the tricky part is we also want to give people some insight into why they might be seeing changes. I mean, I think the important part is also to keep in mind that the core update doesn't mean all sites get shuffled around in search. So it's not like everything is turned upside down. Sometimes it feels that way when you look at, I don't know, SEO Twitter. It's like, oh, everything is changing. But I imagine for the largest majority of the sites out there, it's like nothing really changes. But for those that do see bigger changes, I kind of understand that some of them would like to have some insight into, well, it's like, what happened? Did I do something wrong, or did Google change? And kind of knowing, well, Google changed, like, sometimes that makes it easier to say, well, okay, then I will try to adapt.
Right. But if we could give more guide or more information about what's in an update, or how, or what kind of sites it's affecting, or content it's affecting, then I would be all for it. But at the moment, we cannot. And at the moment, we are just saying that, hello, there was a core update, or incoming core update in 2 hours. And then 4 weeks later, we are like, yeah, we are finished with this core update.
Okay. So I guess one way forward could be for us to say a little bit more about what's happening in some of these updates where we can say more, I guess.
Yeah. But may the odds ever be in our favor.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's like, I know some people at this search engine. Maybe we can talk with them and find some ways. But yeah, I think it's also interesting to see that internally and externally, there's almost like this bit of a conflict around the core updates. Like, oh, should Google be saying these or not? And that's always kind of interesting to see. I don't know, Martin, do you see any talk about core updates from the developer community, or is this basically just purely an SEO thing?
That's an SEO thing. I have not been. I mean, there are a bunch of developers who are also doing SEO and are interested in SEO, and then they catch wind of these things, or developers who are also just generally the web content producers and they run their own, I don't know, like software as a service business or services website or whatever. And then they usually know about core updates. But as far as I'm aware, the perception is they're super opaque. It's like, yeah, everything changes. We don't know why. Quote unquote, we got hit. And that's just what we need to deal with now. And I understand the frustration that if you then say like, yeah, just follow our guidelines, and these people are at least under the impression they are doing that, and then everything changes and we say like, well, just, follow our guidelines, that this might not be received super well. So I see that.
So should we just stop doing core updates?
Well, we can't do that. We cannot. And the thing I wanted to say is that there's also a misconception about core updates. I think that it's a punitive thing. It's basically punishing sites, which is not the case, but rather we are optimizing our relevancy algorithms, for example, or quality, or algorithms that assess quality of a site/page/content. And what we are trying to do is give users better results in some sense, right? So it might be that those sites that were affected negatively by a core update didn't actually do anything wrong, but rather our algorithms changed. And that is very hard to explain and also swallow, I imagine. Because if you are publishing content and you've been publishing content for like 5 years already, and you have a follower base and whatever, and suddenly you rank lower and some competitor is ranking higher because Google made a change, that's not easy to accept, I guess.
But I mean, there's also the other side, like you mentioned, like someone else is ranking higher, and from our point of view, if we're improving the relevance or the quality of the overall search results, we're kind of like saying, well, it's like you've been doing really good work, and we need to kind of make sure that you're kind of like visible appropriately for the good work that you have been doing. So it always feels like there's a strong focus on sites that go down when it's like there's also a lot of sites that go up.
I mean, that's just social media, right? Because like if something negative happens, then social media blows up. If positive happens, then maybe it will blow up if it's cute, but otherwise, probably not. That's just human nature.
And with the mix in the search results, it's like there are 10 results. If like one goes up, then something else has to drop because of that. So it's always, I guess, a mix.
Yeah. But in those cases, we couldn't even be able to say that, yeah, you have to improve your content or you have to buy more links or whatever, because there's not one thing that you need to do, or you don't actually need to do anything because you were not punished for publishing good content. It's just someone else was awarded for publishing better or more in-depth or more pink content.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Complicated topic. I'm sure we'll be talking more about that later on this year and seeing how these updates happen over time. It's like we'll probably have more of them to mention, or I don't know if Gary has to mention them. Maybe we won't mention them. We'll see. Traditionally, you folks have been doing a lot of events. how's that been working out? Like what happened last year? Did you manage to get anything in? Was it just all virtual?
That has been such a mixed bag. So I started the year with trying out if we could do like a virtual event, and I thought I had a better idea than most of the other online events out there. I did not. So that, as far as I can tell, the event was called Search Central Live, and it was the three of us having like a chat and a panel with Danny, and we had a guest speaker, Christina Azarenko, and I think the guest speaker case study thing that worked really well. So I'm looking forward to try that again in a different format somehow, somewhere. We'll see how that goes this year. But the rest of the event I wasn't super happy with. As in, like, I think people liked it. Tell me in the comments if you disagree with this, or if you agree with this for that matter. But I think we didn't get much value out of it from our perspective. We did another virtual unconference that was awesome. It worked really, really well. So this year we want to do more unconferences, or virtual unconferences for sure. Maybe an unconference in person. Who knows about that? We also want to do more local and small events, because I still don't feel good about getting many people in. I tried that in December. We had to cancel the event because the COVID numbers conveniently started to go up drastically, like a week before the event. So that didn't happen. I was at one in-person event in August because it was in Zurich, and I knew the organizers because I used to co-organize the event, and I trusted them. It felt good, but also really, really weird. I do miss in-person events a lot, and having been to one in-person event, that has been great, but it has also felt strange because kind of everyone forgot how to interact with large groups of people. So it was, and I felt very, very drained afterwards.
On the point that you made about the COVID numbers rapidly spiking right before the event, that was my problem as well. I generally don't do online events because I don't like them and I don't want to do them. But I got really excited about this event in Benelux, in Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, and I really wanted to go. And then literally a week before, our COVID numbers went nuts, and suddenly our situation changed and we couldn't go anymore. And that was a big bummer. But I really wanted to be there and see people's faces and interact with them. But I kind of feel like it will be much weirder than it was, because I imagine that everyone will have to be in a mask, for example. You have to distance yourself from people. You have to queue in very specific ways. So I don't know. Do I want to go back to those kind of events or not?
Yeah, it's like if you do a few months of online events, then you kind of still have a connection to all of the in-person things. But now it's been, I don't know, 2 years, more or less. It's like, I don't know, it's almost like learning how to socialize again. And it's like, there are these people and they know you and they would like to take a photo next to you. And you're like, I don't know. I think that'll be kind of challenging. But on the other hand, even just being able to go back to the office every now and then and seeing people in person that you've worked with, I found that really, really valuable. And it's, I don't know, that was, at least the few times that I went, I found that really energizing. And like seeing people in person, being able to chat in person, and not having to do kind of this video back and forth where it's like, well, you see them, but it's like they might as well be virtual reality, or like you don't really know.
Conversations just very, very like unfold very, very differently when you're in person. And I really enjoyed that in the office. And I really, really miss that even at large events like Google I/O or Chrome Dev Summit. These have been immensely useful, at least to me. And I do miss it.
I don't know. People call it the hallway track. Like when you have a big event and you have different tracks going on, you have the hallway track where you kind of meet people in the hallway and you chat and you discuss things and they tell you all of the things that are broken with Google and you take lots of notes and pass those on to the team afterwards. So that's, I don't know. It feels like that part is still kind of missing even with online events. Which is kind of weird because, I don't know, it's like 2 years practice. You'd think someone would have figured out how people can discuss things in kind of a less formal way. But
I mean, that's precisely why I have started the virtual unconferences, where we don't record the events. They're small groups of people in a discussion. And I got a lot of heat for it. It's like, oh, why don't you record this and upload the recording? Because then people won't be so open, won't be so direct in what they say and share with the group. And why can't we have like unlimited number of participants? Well, because a group discussion with 1,000 people is not a group discussion. And even just knowing that there's like a lot of people lurking and listening quietly in the background just changes the dynamic of the conversations that are being had. So while they are not perfect and while they have lots of limitations and are quite a bit of effort to pull off, I'm very, very happy that we have those, but they're still not a replacement for the real hallway track.
Yeah, I do that with my office hours as well, where I have like the first part is recorded and usually people still have more questions at the end anyway. So I stop the recording and make it so that it's like reasonable size for YouTube, but the whole dynamic changes as soon as you stop the recording. It's like, I don't know, people lose a lot of the stress and it's a lot easier to talk about specific issues. And I don't know, it feels a little bit more like a hallway track, but it's still not the same thing. Like, it's just, I don't know, virtual is just so different. What do you think about bigger events in general? Like you mentioned, the event in the beginning that you had planned didn't go quite as well. And it seems like the other big events from Google's side have kind of shrunk a little bit and also focused a little bit more. Do you think even in-person big events at some point will come back, or will it be like, well, people just go to big events to meet other people, not to actually listen to keynotes?
That's a really good question. So big events, as you said, had these two factors to them. One was that we could give a talk and reach a large audience of people in one go and share information from our perspective in one go. And then the hallway track was this entire like building relationships, getting to know each other, finding out what isn't working so well, what people are actually struggling with on a day-to-day basis, or what they are achieving on a day-to-day basis and want to share. And I do hope that we're getting that back, because I think that's immensely valuable, and it just does not work so well when transported online. I don't know why, but that's what it is.
Okay. So basically, you would go to the next big event and just lurk in the hallways and chat with people. Ideally.
Yeah, ideally. If it's safe to do so, sure.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, the safe to do so is kind of a requirement at some point, but hopefully we'll get there. So what about podcasts like these? Do you think we should be doing more of this?
Like more episodes or release?
More episodes of podcasts? Is like a podcast kind of like listening in to a hallway discussion?
I mean, it's more like being the fly on the wall, right? Rather than a hallway discussion.
Well, it's kind of like listening in, you know? It's like,
eavesdropping.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we are having kind of, eavesdropping on our conversation, which is nice, right. I think.
Okay. So we should do more of these. It doesn't sound like you guys are convinced. You're like,
Well, I mean, so the nice thing about this is that the cadence we have right now, we usually have something to talk about. And the whole idea is to let people in on the behind the scenes bits and pieces, and to be very genuine as well, which means minimal planning ahead. But if we want to speed things up, then that means more planning ahead. But then the tricky question becomes is how do we plan ahead yet keep the flexibility? I think we can have like a list of things that we want to talk about anyway, and then push that back whenever we have something current that we want to talk about. There's already a delay between what we talk about and when it comes out into the public eye, or actually into the public ear, rather. This being a podcast and all. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I'm feeling about speeding things up.
Oh my gosh, that sounds very reluctant. What about you, Gary? Like, should we do more podcasts or should we switch to videos again?
Well, I don't like videos, so there's that. I have a strong preference for podcasts, at least recording wise. I'm with Martin on this. Basically, we are busy folks because I'm baking cookies and Martin is doing stuff and John is working. If we would need to do more, then that just means that we need more time to, for example, bake cookies, which is hard because we only have 24 hours in a day. But I would be up for it, at least to try it and see how it goes.
Cool.
Maybe people want more podcast episodes. And I definitely know that we have collective knowledge that we could talk about search for days and days and we still wouldn't run out of topics. Give it a try and see how it goes, maybe.
Fine.
We could ask the audience.
No, don't give people the idea that they have power over us.
Of course they have power.
Oh, God.
This is a democracy, Martin. It's like we will have the majority determine whether or not you will do a podcast.
Internet, no, this is Sparta.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's like if you're listening to this and you have comments on whether or not we should do more podcasts or not, or what kind of podcasts we should do more of, it's like make sure to drop some comments and send us some tweets or something along the way to kind of motivate Martin and Gary to actually join in more. Like,
John, seriously.
Yes.
Who do you think is listening at the 30-somethings minute?
Who?
Yeah, everyone has moved on to other things, hopefully.
I'm pretty sure Barry is listening to this.
Hi, Barry.
Hi, Barry. If you're listening to this.
Hey, Barry.
Cool. And I'm sure there are at least 7 other people. 7.
At least 7. Mm-hmm.
So we'll get 7 comments at least. Maybe. Hopefully. I'm sure it'll be good. I mean, I really enjoy doing these podcasts because it's a little bit easier than doing kind of the more formal videos and the more formal content. It's a little bit easier to get, I don't know, less formal input from you all, and kind of being able to also show that, well, just because Google says something doesn't mean that it's all unanimous and everyone agrees and everyone wants to do exactly the same thing. So sometimes there are different opinions internally at Google, and finding out what is actually right and what is wrong, it's like you never really know ahead of time. And that's, I think, kind of the charm of the podcast format.
And we can still give away information and see it being picked up by, for example, Search Engine Roundtable.
Cool. Well, we'll watch out to see what everyone has to write about this episode, and hopefully they say, like, you should do more of this and don't fire John or Gary or Martin.
Interesting conclusion.
Cool. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us here, folks. We've been having fun with these podcast episodes, and I hope you, the listener, have found them both entertaining and insightful as well. Feel free to drop me a note on Twitter or chat with us at one of the virtual events whenever they happen to take place. If you have any thoughts on the podcast and the content that we could be covering here. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. So thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Tjö med du!